Hello and welcome to Candid Conversation. If Finance Minister Arun Jaitley's last two budgets were about giving an opportunity to tax evaders to come clean by paying higher taxes and penalties, his fourth budget has put economic fugitives, cash deals and shady political funding under the lens, besides giving some relief to small taxpayers and companies. After the budget, the government has announced a crackdown on shell companies that are deviant in nature, that are evading taxes and laundering money. To talk about the budget and government's crackdown on black money, we are joined by Chairman of CBDT, Sushil Chandra. Welcome, Mr. Chandra, to Candid Conversation.
Thank you.
Let's begin with the recent announcement of the government on shell companies. The government has decided to go after them because they evade taxes and launder money. What is the thinking of the government behind this, and is this the next logical step to combat black money post-demonetization?
Yes. This government is absolutely clear about that black money has to be eradicated. Absolutely, there is a zero tolerance for the black money. In that particular series, the recent announcement regarding the shell companies has been made that the shell companies will have to be nipped in the bud. As soon as they are framed, we will have to take an action against that. That MCA, that Ministry of Corporate Affairs, will immediately examine as to how the shell companies are being made and incorporated, and if there is something wrong about those companies, then action will have to be taken. Shell companies are being used for laundering the black money. They are the see-through entities in which the money is put into layers. They are a company of no worth, and generally, in the name of employees, these companies are framed in the sense that the employees like peon, like gardener, like drivers, they are made directors in that, and they are incorporated with an intention of laundering black money. Therefore, it is absolutely essential that we should take action against these companies, and they have been found in various searches by the Income Tax Department that they were laundering money and they were converting into the bogus long-term capital gains. This is a very important step that we will have to finish these shell companies.
Okay. Post-demonetization, around 18 lakh account holders are under the scrutiny of the Income Tax Department. But how are you ensuring that those who are honest taxpayers among them are not harassed? Also, post-demonetization, some people would have bought gold, some real estate with their ill-gotten wealth. Will you be going after them as well?
In the post-demonetization, we found various accounts, and we took the statements from various banks which they are required to send us. We analyzed those particular accounts, and we found that more than 2 lakh rupees have been deposited in more than 1.09 crore accounts. So this is a very big challenge. We thought that we will go absolutely into non-intrusive manner to the taxpayers, and then we put as a Operation Clean Money and Swachh Dhan Yojana. We examined all these accounts from our income tax database, and we found that the accounts which are not in line with the income tax profile, that we like to put it on the website of the Income Tax Department, which will be peculiar to that taxpayer. He can log in through his identity, and through his PAN number he can see those accounts which have been put by the Income Tax Department. This is not a notice to any assessee. It is the e-verification which we want to do before issuing any notice to any taxpayer. Rather, we would like that they should come on our website and they should see there are structured responses into that this money has come from my savings, or it has been given by gift to by somebody else to me, and this is the source of this particular deposit. Once we find that this amount is absolutely clear in the sense that he has explained properly the source, that particular thing will be closed. But if we find that the deposit is much more than what his income tax profile says or what is his income, then further action will be taken. That is why we are giving absolutely a very clear opportunity to all taxpayers in whose accounts the money has been deposited.
But no questions will be asked of those people who have deposited less than 2.5 lakh rupees.
Definitely, we have not put any account which is less than 2.5 lakh. Only above 5 lakh and between 3 to 5 lakh, where we have got suspicion that new accounts have been opened, suddenly some money has been put into that, which is also not in line with the income tax return which they have filed. So suppose somebody has never filed a return and he has put in a 5 lakh rupees in his bank account, and the account has been opened on 10th of November, then it is a suspicious account for us. So we'd like to know also from which source you have deposited that account.
Okay. So in other words, you'll be doing your due diligence and ensuring that the honest taxpayer is not harassed. How has the response been to the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana? Because in another 1.5 months from now, it will conclude.
Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana is also linked with these particular accounts which we have put on the website also. When it was examined and it was found that the persons are depositing lot of money into the bank accounts, so we thought that we should give some that output, some outlet, because of which the person can come at a lesser amount of tax. So we have put 50% of tax into that particular scheme, and the person can come if he cannot explain his deposit. He should come into that scheme. It is the best scheme for that particular purpose. Otherwise, the tax can go up to 83%.
Are you seeing overwhelming response to it already?
Definitely, because when a person is not able to explain his account, when a person is not able to explain his deposit, I think this is the only scheme in which he can go, because this is at 50%. This is an opportunity, and it is at 50% of rate. Otherwise, rate is 83% or 77%. And if such takes place, it is more than 100%. So a person will have to weigh himself. If the account is not explainable to him by him, he should come to PMGKY, and therefore there is a lot of good response also in PMGKY.
Let's come to the budget now, and it's quite shocking that only 24 lakh people in India declare their annual income to be over 10 lakh rupees, which simply means that there is a huge difference between the number of people who should be paying taxes and those who actually pay taxes. What is the CBDT doing to bridge that gap?
CBDT has started, earlier also. We are getting a third-party reporting information from various areas. In the sense, if you purchase a property, you will get information about that. If you have deposited money in the bank account, we will get the information about that. Then we match up these information with our data, and if we find that you are not filing the return, or you are not paying sufficient taxes out of that particular considering the investment made by you, we take action against a non-intrusive manner. We have got a non-fileless management system, and we issue a computerized notice that you have purchased a property, you have not filed the tax return. Therefore, after that you will have to come to file return. So during this year also, we have issued around 60 lakh of notices based on that particular information which we get from outside different agencies, and therefore we can widen the tax net. We also thought that the tax rate should be reduced. So the government has reduced the tax rates as far as the individual is concerned, and it is the first time that a 5% rate has been introduced at a lower level, so that more persons should come in the tax net and file the return of income.
But these attempts to broaden the tax base must have been going on for far too long. So why have the results only been this much and not more?
No, we have got around 5.7 crore of assessees at the moment, and 4 crore persons are filing the returns also. So considering the economic activity and the income level, the sufficient persons have filed the return of income. But we require further that they should widen. We should widen the tax base. We should deepen the tax base. As you have said, that a few numbers are there about 10 lakh rupees. So we will have to match again their data as to if the investment is there. Then if the income is not commensurate, we will have to take their case in scrutiny also.
And interestingly, you have projected a growth of 15.3% in direct tax collections for the next fiscal. What's the basis of that estimate?
Now you see that a lot of money has come in the banks also. The whole cash which was lying idle is in the banking system. That will generate the business activity, and the GDP growth is definitely higher for the next year, as has been pointed out in economic survey. So coupled with the demonetization, coupled with the digital economy has to increase, coupled with that the GDP has to go up, I think 15.3% rate is quite reasonable.
Absolutely. In the last 2 years, you've been accounting for some 17% all in all. But we'll take a break at this point in time in Candid Conversation. Our guest this week is Chairman of CBDT, Sushil Chandra. We'll be back in a bit.
तुमने कहा था पैसे दोगे मुझे? I need money.
अंजू, ये चोट कैसे लगी?
वो बाथरूम में पैर फिसल गया था।
छुपाने से कुछ सॉल्व नहीं होगा अंजू। ये सब आखिर कब तक? हाँ?
कभी मायके से पैसे मंगाओ तो कभी लड़की पैदा हुई इसका ताना। मैं करूँ भी तो क्या अनीता? छोड़ना, मेरे घर की बात है।
ये तुम्हारी इज्जत की बात है। अपने पति के घर में इज्जत से रह पाना तुम्हारा हक है, और वो जो कर रहा है गैर कानूनी है। इसकी कंप्लेंट करना जरूरी है। डरो मत, डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस एक्ट के तहत तुम्हारे पति को पहले वार्निंग दी जाएगी और एक प्रोटेक्शन ऑफिसर भी अपॉइंट होगा जो उसके बर्ताव पर निगरानी रखेगा। इसमें काउंसलिंग, इमरजेंसी में शेल्टर होम और मेडिकल की सुविधा भी है।
फिर भी हालात नहीं सुधरे तो घरेलू हिंसा अधिनियम 2005 के अंतर्गत आप निकटतम पुलिस स्टेशन में कंप्लेंट कर सकते हैं। अगर सुनवाई नहीं होती है तो राष्ट्रीय महिला आयोग की मदद भी ले सकते हैं। घर के अंदर होने वाले जुल्म को छिपाओ मत, बल्कि आवाज उठाओ।
अब मैं अपने लाइफ की सबसे बड़ी मूवमेंट लीड करने जा रहा हूँ, जो इंडिया के लिए बहुत जरूरी है। आपको खड़ा होना पड़ेगा मेरे साथ टीम स्वच्छ भारत मिशन का हिस्सा बनकर, और हम सब मिलकर एक ऐसा इंडिया बनाएंगे जहाँ हर कोई टॉयलेट यूज करता हो, क्योंकि जब सब टॉयलेट यूज करेंगे तो सब प्रोग्रेस करेंगे।
जब आप अपने बच्चे को ऐसे नहीं देख सकते तो दूसरे बच्चों से कैसे काम करवा सकते हैं? 14 साल से कम उम्र के बच्चों से काम करवाना एक दंडनीय अपराध है, जिसके लिए आपको जुर्माना या जेल भी हो सकती है।
बाल श्रम को कहें ना।
भैया राजनगर चलोगे? बैठो। पर पैसे नहीं है मेरे पास।
पर भाई साहब दिमाग तो है ना, चलो निकलो।
अरे भीम है ना, भीम भेज देगा पैसे।
ओ भाई साहब क्यों सुबह सुबह मेरा मीटर डाउन कर रहे हो? और ये भीम कौन है? ओ हेलो।
अरे भीम मोबाइल ऐप डाउनलोड करो, भीम पिन और यूपीआई पिन सेट करो, किसी को भी पैसे दो या लो, कभी भी कहीं भी।
ओ भाई बहुत देखे ऐसे ऐप, हमसे ना हो पाएगा ला।
अरे सिंपल है, खुद ट्राई करो।
भीम ऐप डाउनलोड करें, पर अपने मोबाइल नंबर को बैंक खाते से जोड़ना ना भूलें।
तो भाई साहब राजनगर नहीं जाना क्या? मैंने भी भीम डाउनलोड कर ही लिया।
हाँ चलो।
सफलता के लिए चाहिए एक संकल्प। जीएसटी कई करों की जगह एक कर। सफलता के लिए चाहिए सुगमता। जीएसटी वस्तुओं का बाधा रहित प्रवाह करेगा व्यापार आसान। सफलता के लिए चाहिए दमदार स्ट्रोक। जीएसटी एक राष्ट्र, एक कर, एक बाजार।
जीएसटी आजादी के बाद सबसे बड़ा कर सुधार, अर्थव्यवस्था के बेहतर परफॉर्मेंस के लिए।
Welcome back. You're watching Candid Conversation. Our guest this week is CBDT Chairman Sushil Chandra. Mr. Chandra, after the budget, there is some concern in industry circles over the possibility of arbitrary searches by taxmen, because the budget says that reason to believe for income tax raids need not be given to any person, authority or appellate tribunal. What is the rationale behind this move?
Earlier also, this satisfaction note was not supposed to be given to anybody, because it is not an appealable thing. We have got informers who tells us about various things, and on that basis, and after verifying the information in our possession, and after coming to the conclusion that this information is like that, which SSSC is not going to disclose before us, only then we conduct the searches. Earlier also, these satisfaction note was not to be given to any income tax authority like Commissioner Appeals or the ITAT tribunals. Only before the High Court we used to give it, only whenever there was a appellate against that writ jurisdiction which we call, then we used to give it before the High Court. So similarly, the position remains the same as it is. Earlier also, some Commissioner Appeals, some ITATs, they wanted to know about the reasons, and the reasons are not given, they used to quash the searches, which is absolutely not desirable, because that was never intention of the Income Tax Act. Therefore, we want to clarify this in absolutely clear terms, that whenever the court requires, that it can be submitted to the court if anybody requires for that. Otherwise, this is a very confidential thing as to how the search is being done, and absolutely on clear and credible information the searches are conducted. Here also there is a lot of controls I would like to say about that, that only with the approval of the Director General Investigation the search is conducted. No junior officer in this department can authorize the search. DG Investigation authorizes the search, and only Principal Director of Income Tax Investigation can issue the warrant.
So there will be
so there is
safeguards, you are
absolutely
saying. There will
safeguard.
be no
Earlier also
arbitrary
the
IP
safeguards were
searches.
there. Today also the safeguard is there. So no arbitrary search can take place ever in income tax department. That is very, very clear.
The budget has also given powers to income tax officers to reopen income tax cases that are up to 10 years old. Why was this decision taken by the government?
Last year we had passed the Finance Act while passing the IDS, that is Income Declaration Scheme, and in that one clause had come that if you do not come in income declaration scheme, and after this scheme anything which is found unexplained, that can be taxed in a particular assessment year. It may be very old also, it can be 30 years old or 40 years old also. So that was a clause which was absolutely not necessitated with any urgency. We deleted that particular clause, that we do not want to go beyond a particular number of years. Therefore, I
think that is now 6 years.
That is now 6 years, and the current years combined with 7 years. So we now find that if some asset is found during search, only during search, then if asset is found whose value is more than 50 lakh rupees in 1 year or coupled with 4 years, only in those particular cases, the cases can go up to 10 years, from 6 to 10 years. Not in any other case, not in
general. So the
general.
circumstances are defined, you are saying?
So absolutely defined, and a lot of care has been taken to formulate that only in search assessments, nowhere else. Where search has taken place, during the search we find, and that too only an asset of more than 50 lakh rupees in 1 year or in 4 years, then only we can go up to 10 years. Otherwise, for general thing, it is only 6 years, and the position remains as it was earlier.
Many economists, Mr. Chandra, have reasoned that tax laws need to be simplified and exemptions need to be either done away with or minimized as much as possible, so that the discretionary powers of tax officers are quite limited and tax base can be widened. Should that be the way forward?
Yes, even if you see the last year's budget also, many exemptions were removed from the Act, and the corporate tax was lower to 29%. This year's also we want that no discretionary power should be with the assessing officers. There should be absolutely transparency and clarity. We reduce the tax rate to 25% in the companies which having a turnover up to 50 crore also. For individual also, we reduce that rate to 5% in the lower slab. As far as the exemptions are concerned, we are absolutely phasing out those exemptions. And as far as the discretionary powers which you have mentioned, that we have issued large number of circulars to the public, to the taxpayers, that if there is a contentious issue, this will be the position of the department and you should pay tax according to that. So that this is binding on the assessing officer and to the assessee both, and therefore he will be having no discretion except to deviate from that particular legal situation. We absolutely want that the litigation should be minimum, there should be certainty in tax laws, there should be clarity in tax laws, so that a person should not feel that how the income tax officer will take it to a different conclusion at all.
The government has accepted the recommendation of the Special Investigation Team on black money to put a cash transaction limit of 3 lakh rupees. How will the taxman enforce this?
This is a very important thing. Actually, we have put a equivalent amount of penalty. If anybody receives rupees 3 lakh for any transactions in cash from a person, he will have to pay the same amount of penalty.
But how will it be enforced?
Because we have got a lot of information about anyone. Because sometimes we go for survey also, sometimes we get a third party reporting also, sometimes we find during other methodologies as to how we are getting the information from some computerization systems. And therefore, we will definitely, whenever it comes to our notice, like search, survey or otherwise, we will impose a penalty.
Because many people will try to dodge the system by purchasing things which are more than 3 lakh rupees worth and not paying an equivalent penalty for the same.
What is happening actually, we are trying to persuade the persons for digital economy. And in all sectors, we have reduced the cash limits. Whether earlier income tax also 20,000 cash limit was there for any expenditure, we have reduced it down to 10,000 rupees. So definitely in all sectors, we have reduced that cash limit, and the income tax department oversees certain things. Because when we are seeing the accounts of the person who is a big establishment, and we find some persons are what are doing, they're splitting the purchases or the sales, then also we can find and club it that if it's from the same person, if it's more than 3 lakh rupees and they have been split, we can definitely find it out from the accounts that it has been given more than 3 lakh rupees in cash, and in that case we will take the action against that person.
Are you banking on people reporting to tax authorities about such cash transactions which are above the 3 lakh limit also?
Definitely, and in certain cases we have put already TCS, that 1% TCS will have to be deducted. So through that particular mechanism, we will be finding it out.
Do you expect that cash limit to be lowered over the years?
It can be, definitely. Because we want absolutely digital economy in this country. It is very, very clear. That is why when all amount has come into the economy, to the banking channels, the cash limits are being reduced, the cash expenditures limits are being reduced in the income tax also. So therefore the person will come down more on the digital economy rather than the cash economy.
It's interesting that you are saying that the government is all for a digital economy. We'll talk about that in the context of political funding as well. But at this point in time, we'll slim do a short break. We'll be back with more. You're watching Candid Conversation.
अगर मैं कहूँ सूर्य रोशनी के साथ देते हैं हवा भी, मानना पड़ेगा। सूर्य फैंस, हवा का नया नाम। सूर्य फैंस, मेरी पसंद और आपकी? सूर्य।
पेट्रोलियम पदार्थ सीमित हैं और जल्द ही खत्म हो जाने वाले हैं, इसीलिए इन दुर्लभ पदार्थ को बचाना जरूरी है। एलपीजी बचाने के लिए प्रेशर कुकर का इस्तेमाल करें। पीसीआरए द्वारा बताए गए साधारण टिप्स अपनाइए। आइए दोस्तों, हम ईंधन बचाएं और देश की प्रगति में हाथ बटाएं।
पीसीआरए का एंड्रॉइड ऐप डाउनलोड करें और एलपीजी बचत के उपाय जानें। पेट्रोलियम संरक्षण अनुसंधान संघ, भारत सरकार द्वारा जनहित में जारी।
आ गया राजू बेटा, हम सब 10 फरवरी सुबह रेलगाड़ी से तुम्हारी मौसी के घर जाएंगे।
पर उस दिन तो राष्ट्रीय कृमि मुक्ति दिवस है।
राजू ठीक कह रहा है, उस दिन स्कूल में सब बच्चों को कृमि नियंत्रण की दवाई खिलाई जाएगी। कृमि बच्चों के शरीर के लिए महत्वपूर्ण पोषक तत्वों को खा लेते हैं, जिससे बच्चे के शरीर में खून की कमी, कुपोषण और वृद्धि में रुकावट आती है। 1 से 5 वर्ष के बच्चों को यह दवाई आंगनवाड़ी केंद्रों में खिलवाई जा सकती है। कृमि से छुटकारा,
सेहतमंद भविष्य हमारा।
प्रधानमंत्री ग्राम सड़क योजना ने हम गांव वालों के लिए तरक्की के रास्ते खोल दिए।
सड़क के गड्ढों की फोटो खींच रहे हो, कोई खास बात है क्या?
अरे काका, मेरे मोबाइल फोन में मेरी सड़क ऐप है, जिससे प्रधानमंत्री ग्राम सड़क से जुड़ी कोई भी जानकारी सरकार तक भेजी जा सकती है। सड़क से जुड़े सुझाव या शिकायत पर सरकार वाजिब कार्यवाही करती है।
प्रधानमंत्री ग्राम सड़क से जुड़ी कोई भी बात, मेरी सड़क एंड्रॉइड ऐप अब हर पल मेरे साथ।
यार बहुत परेशान हूँ, नई जगह है, समझ नहीं आ रहा आधार कहाँ से बनवाऊं?
अरे पास में ही है सर जी, ऐसा कीजिए आप।
अरे भाई इधर उधर मत घुमाओ, आधार बनवाना बहुत ही आसान है। इसके लिए आप आधार के टोल फ्री नंबर 1947 पर कॉल करके जानकारी पा सकते हैं, या आप इंटरनेट का इस्तेमाल करते हैं तो आधार की वेबसाइट uidai.gov.in पर जाकर नजदीकी आधार केंद्र का पता जान सकते हैं।
मेरा आधार मेरी पहचान।
Welcome back. You're watching Candid Conversation. Our guest this week is Chairman of CBDT, Mr. Sushil Chandra. Mr. Chandra, a committee of chief ministers that was formed recently has submitted its report, and one of its recommendations to promote digital economy is to have a cash transaction tax in place. What's the thinking of the government on this?
This is under consideration, but no decision has been taken on yet on this report. This is under absolutely consideration of the government.
Okay, so the government is considering it. But Mr. Chandra, as far as political funding is concerned, the budget has proposed that there should be electoral bonds to fund political parties, and the limit insofar as anonymous cash donations is concerned has been lowered from less than 20,000 rupees to less than 2,000 rupees. Now critics are saying that why allow any anonymous cash donations at all when there is so much of a push on a digital economy, on a less cash economy. What would you say to them? Because they are saying that that cash can be unaccounted for money.
This is a very big achievement in this particular budget, that electoral funding has been made absolutely very clean. And this is a very small amount of 2,000 rupees. Generally in small towns, if you find that how electoral funding is done, that some traders, some small persons, they give even 2,000 rupees to a particular party. So we cannot ignore what is on the ground. If some persons are giving small amounts, I think there is no problem into that. For other persons, absolutely digital payment which have to be made to the electoral parties, and it is through the electoral bonds, digital system, bank drafts. So 2,000 rupees is such a very small limit that if a person wants to be associated with a political party and they want to give that, there is no problem into that.
But majority actually break down their money into less than 2,000 rupees. The political parties can show it to the election commission or the income tax department as donations of less than 2,000 rupees, which is what we've seen generally with various political parties, and RTIs have come out with such disclosures. So is that a way to dodge transparency?
Actually, earlier there was no limit as such. Only that limit was that up to above 20,000 rupees, they were required to put the name and address of the persons from whom this money has been taken. Now this limit has come of 2,000 rupees. You can't convert a lot of money is less than 2,000 rupees denominations, and nobody is going to do that.
But what if that happens?
Then if there's more money into that, then also they will be keeping some amount, some name of the persons. Then we can think about that. But that amount is so less actually in the economy, and they will have to file the return in time, so they cannot manipulate the accounts also. Therefore, this is not a very big thing. I think 2,000 rupees is such a small thing, and we cannot ignore the basic ground realities. Election Commission has also suggested to lower down that particular limit. That is why this limit has been lowered to 2,000 rupees.
Okay. Now, Mr. Chandra, in the budget we saw some tax relief for the small taxpayers as well as for small companies, and we saw that the burden by way of a surcharge has been now shifted to high net worth individuals or high earning professionals. Is that the central philosophy of this budget? Will that be the way forward in the years to come?
Not at all. This government has lowered down the taxes, I think, to the lowest in the world. 5% of the tax rate at a lower level, I think, is one of the lowest in any
That's
country.
what is the burden being shifted from small taxpayers to...
Burden is also not being shifted.
Okay.
It is hardly anything that above 50 lakh. We have not increased the rate of the tax at all. A surcharge of 10% has been added.
Yes.
That is only 10% from 50 lakh to 1 crore. Above 1 crore, there was already a surcharge of 15%. So again, that is also not an increase. And we have given 12,500 benefit to everyone, because by lowering the rate to 5% in that particular bracket, that 12,500 benefit has gone to everyone above 5 lakh rupees of income. So as such, this is not a much tax burden. And if we are earning, like you have simply mentioned, that above 10 lakh only 20 lakh persons are filing, it means they are substantially higher income as far as this country is concerned. And if a simple marginal 10% surcharge, it is not the income tax rate, it is only some minor surcharge, I think they can pay for that.
One very short reply I would request from you on the roadmap for direct taxes for the next 3 years.
As far as direct taxes is concerned, we are absolutely going to the e-systems, e-assessments, e-filing, broadening of the tax base, less litigation, and the voluntary compliance by the taxpayers. I would definitely request the person that they should voluntarily come, pay their taxes correctly, and we are absolutely willing to remove any genuine difficulties of any assessee. The tax net has to be widened in this country. Therefore, we have gone to such a low rate, even at the risk of losing certain revenues. But definitely the time has come that the mentality of the taxpayer will have to be changed. They will have to be tax compliant from a non-tax compliant situation, as has also been mentioned by the finance minister in his speech, that in this country there are more non-tax compliant persons are more. So I would like that they should change their mindset and come for a compliance. Because if you see, even in the companies, if there are more than 1 crore EBC, there are only 36,500 companies who are filing return of more than 1 crore. So they will have to come into the tax net. There should be no exemptions. The exemption should be less, and they should look forward to contribute to the nation building by paying their due taxes.
All the very best, and thank you so much, Mr. Chandra, for having joined us on Candid Conversation. May you succeed in your endeavors to expand the tax base. Thank you.
Thank you very much.